Hi, my name is Christopher Thomas Ryan. I'm an associate professor at the University of British Columbia, and my two sons, Leo and Max, are both Weiqi players. I'd like to talk a little bit about what I think is wonderful about Weiqi for kids to learn, and let me just say a few things. First, I think board games like this in general, but especially Weiqi, are excellent opportunities for kids to practice their logic. For many subjects in life and in school, there's a need for logic that looks at cases. So like, if this happens, then this will happen. And I think Weiqi is ideal for this type of thinking. Every choice you make has a reaction from the other player that you're working with. And to succeed in the game, you really need to have a careful logic that goes far into the future. And what makes Weiqi very special is that the action and the game is so spread out across the whole board that you can't just be looking for implications of your choices in a particular area. You need to be taking in the whole board, not becoming obsessed or overly focused in one direction versus another. And I think this is an excellent training for children and young people to learn about multitasking, in a sense. Not multitasking in the sense of doing many things at once, but maybe doing something at once in many different places and many different ways. I think this is an excellent training for many subjects in many careers as well, where often you have a particular thought process or idea that you need to apply not just in one place, but in many places. And you can learn from the application in one place versus another. I think a great example in school is mathematics, where we learn the tool of algebra in math class, but then we use it in chemistry and physics and other places. We can see that each is using the same logic, but in different applications and in different ways. And I think Weiqi is an ideal scenario for this exact kind of thinking, where we're using logic in one part of the board, but also the similar logics in another part of the board. But depending on the situation, I use different aspects of that logic. And this gives me a much greater overall appreciation of strategy and thought, which requires the player to be very, very organized. I think this idea of organization is something that I've seen with my own children as they play Weiqi. I think I've seen them become more systematic in how they approach what they do, more organized. And I think one of the great reasons why Weiqi is an excellent game among board games is the need for a very long-term kind of planning, a very global kind of planning. In contrast to a game like chess, where one can focus on a particular line of attack. In Weiqi, if you're focusing on a particular line of attack in one part of the board, you're susceptible to attack in other parts of the board. And so the plan cannot be aggressive in a certain sense. The plan needs to be both aggressive and defensive at the same time. And I think this is also a great life lesson, that when we're undertaking any task, say we were trying to choose a career or what to study, we should not only think about how to attack it now, but what are the implications of that choice later? And so I think Weiqi gives students this long-term appreciation for planning and organizing their thoughts. But I don't think it should be understated that Weiqi is an important game, not just what's on the board, but across the board, meaning the relationship with other players of the game. I think it's true of any board game that as you play the game, you gain an appreciation and respect for others with skill in that game. And I think you can build bonds of appreciation and kind of a mutual admiration for one another, especially when you have a great game. And I think Weiqi is an excellent game that has developed a culture of respect. There's a certain decorum in how you play the game and what it represents. But I think it's also, Weiqi is it is a vehicle for children to connect with the origins of the game in China and the Chinese mindset and the Chinese notions of strategy and the Chinese culture. And so I think especially for students, young people who have Chinese heritage, I think Weiqi is an excellent vehicle for them to connect with that heritage. Also, for those with just wanting to learn or understand better something about Chinese culture and maybe some of the high points of the achievements of that culture, I think Weiqi is a great example of that. So those are the things I wanted to share about Weiqi. I hope that you and your children will consider playing the game, and hopefully we can one day see each other across the board. Thank you so much.